This is Chariot TV.
We bring you greetings from Chariot TV, and once again, we are here on Textalk. We are so much grateful to all of our listeners and then viewers for the past year. Moji mrebibre and edema wo yadisia ewo Textalk ne so. Na afifufo yi mu nso so wasa agimre ese o kan ho na yesua de wo Textalk so no. Ni so na we take this opportunity to express our gratitude for you being with us this year too. So far, I feel mono yifiti yadisua na se edifa the Bible ho. Na yadisua mono yemre ni nyina no se yakaya yesempa ni Shadrach eka ye ho eni yesua niema bebre edi free mfiti ase esem no ho edi free Mose ngoma odi kan try no mu edi befa the writings and the histories mu edi ba ABC the various prophets no emu. Na ni nyina mu no yahwe the various authors of all the books of the Old Testament. Na yadisua ne ba we last year no yekase afufufuri mu no yebehwe the authors of the books of the New Testament no aka yadisua ne ho. And that will be our focus. Ye mreka kredi enim no yebekɔ so na yesua ade wo ho. Ene yeto yadisua no eso na mewo preacher Shadrach awe yentem enyo no nko. Saa so na mewo brother Jonathan Mensabo nsususo ewo yentem. And you know, Makwaba Ediba Chariot TV so ebio.
Yeah.
Brother Shadrach dear, you know kakra wa ha inti me mpese meka ne ho asem bebre. Nemo said last time moka me ho ma ye da na se no. This year so say you know when si obi o say obeka ye ho am yesua de. Yewo brother Jonathan Mensabo su enso ewo yentem na brother Jonathan a preacher ewo Tema Community 8 and 9 Church of Christ. On so a year ejuma ewo Chariot so. Nenso ewo Textalk abra ifiti se dwuma die yase de enene eda edi kan yenya no yentem a obeka ye ho o ya desu animu. Brajo ye mo akwa babio edeba Textalk so.
Yenya me da se also wagibra na ode mama kwanya na me nsuma ba abaha.
Ene yadisua no ankasa no ye focus ewo the intertestamental period no eso. We are actually moving from the Old Testament studies na ye about the authorship no into the New Testament studies no. Enti yadisua mu ene no we want to actually establish in between these two testaments no say BBC and I say it was just a continuity of the series of events from the Old Testament directly and yet the New Testament no more na ansa na no mepese ye beka ya adwen kakra ewo niema yesua afie twemu concerning the Old Testament no. Brother Shadrach na ni yesua de enti sempaka ni Shadrach me pacho ubetimi aka ya adwen kakra bi afa yadesua yesua no emre kakra imu anka ye ni beje ho.
Jojo me da say my memfasa kwanya so na menda wahwefo de enuanom a follow Chariot TV ase. Say said we started talking about the Bible. Na Bible no mu no ne and say ansa na obeti bibia ase ni ne book bi a wusua no pese ohun nipa o troye. Any the entire ultra the ultra no. Enti no we spent some time back in 2023 talking about various books what Bible we started free the three divisions, the main divisions of the Old Testament. I can't say the Torah, and the Navim, and the Ketuvim. And church say Torah no chere the first 5 books of Moses. And ye ba ebe chere mu say Torah no da nchen a the writings ahodo ye history womo ewo in their books no. And also so ye kan ho asem ema ye jebre bobo ebia so any a brief content about book no die wom. It's so important. It's say Joe say ofa Bible ya ye crazy see ya and never be bree any womb, and people have used it to say all kinds of things. So as I say, it's now when say we should be able to understand and near my womb history how do a woman any anwen sama how do a woman and on your friend no a katuvim no 80 ufa book bit to say the Chronicles, ufa books bit to say the Psalms and the Proverbs and the Songs of Solomon adina sa Esther and Nehemiah, Ezra and only various historical books and the details of each of the things that were happening in the land of Palestine, Israel for no asasa so. Ena enwechi no ye transition ba de friend no Navim no chere prophets, 80 books of prophecy no the minor prophet, the major prophet, and the church them say can major prophet can womo man dawson and yes be a major no chere so chain will be name na ngoma no dawson ne can minor chere no ebe 1 chapter, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, and church them say. But one of the things be a me de make chat summary no so na say yo you try say be man nipa beti the reason why sa enwoma nyina ni details we nyina wo Bible mu na yin chirechire mu e de man say onyankopon plan mu no o hyehyɛ say obema obi abeji wiase nkwa it right from the book of Genesis eba besi Malachi no the kan nyina and say he is coming oba. The onyankopon so maji wiase nkwa no oba, he is coming. Ena oba Matthew through to John and also kire say he is here waba. The oba no waba. Eti ye passage bit itself John chapter 1 verse 29 or say John who Jesus or say behold this is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Enti yebehun say Yesu no waba. And then at the book of Acts through to the book of Revelation, no, he will come again. He is going to come again. Eti enam say obebe bio enti no. Na etwa say ye Christopher no yesiesie ho. Na won so onye Christo ni won so siesie no ho na obeji Christo di. Eti ho na ye bo tofa no a ye de beti na emom ye be wie afenum na ye kan say from Old Testament no no ye move to New Testament, but in between the New Testament no enema bi see it is an emano nam gidi se ne no ye hia ye pese ye bo ho enkomo.
Okay, me da say summary or ye ede amain. I quite remember say who adi tremono can be vivid adequacy so say although in the Bible we see Malachi to be the last written book in the Old Testament, no, chronologically, ankasano, the book of Chronicles, and a woman or three editor to our Old Testament name. Now, in that particular book of Chronicles, no, Otremo Edikosi say, Otreniema, the history of Israel, Busunyokuno, the genealogy actually. Now the writings in there no na ewo edima Israel man sebeya omubekai omunchiri omunyankopon omusom no the family they belong to any niema bibra na eka ho. but transitioning no in the book of Malachi you mentioned say Israel for abra wo free kwasum na obaye rebuilding of the temple no the prophets warned them actually edifa ekwan a omusa efiri nkwasum ba na omusi som nyankopon esifa no omuyamu nyina emfa ensom nyankopon. Okay, so around that time no my question na me bisa ewo ha ne say mekai say okasa edifa Nehemiah ekọ ohene nanim ne nkomodie mu a oboa na Israel fiti ase so omo beko nchi. My question na me want to say at that point in time apam dada no every yemre mu no na Israel was total freedom and say na oda so she Babylon ase saying is
my enko Bible no mu na enko answers our question in 2 Chronicles chapter 36 you know in my opinion it won't say Nkrofobi might disagree because this is not a fact it will be any. In my opinion 2 Chronicles is the last book that was written.
Okay.
Now at the close of the book no see the Ezra Troy that will give you an idea as to question that will be you know. 2 Chronicles chapter 36. Yeah, starting from verse 21 no. And then eka.
Verse number 21, 2 Chronicles chapter 36. To fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths, as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all kingdoms of the earth the Lord God of heaven has given me, and he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is among you of all his people? That's a question. May the Lord his God be with him, and let him go up.
What I say, it arrived from the beginning of Cyrus the Persian kingdom. And God stirred up the spirit of Cyrus and on no actual letter, a decree, and on sending it throughout his kingdom, calling on all people. And let me emphasize on Saturday. I'm saying, Tada, you can't say, a Jew from Kwana Cyrus Momuko Mochi. No. At that time, no Babylon for one friend, also watching quite free different places, no, Omudo Maide, up to Babylon. And so when Medo-Persians took over, no, and we'll talk about this in our discussion, and then when Medo-Persians took over, no, they decided, say, Cyrus, when you go upon freedom or they Israel into no, or man not affected or more Kenya. So he set the people free to go back to their countries. But Israel for the country almost said they should go and build the temple of the Lord. And he supported them with that work. And yes, they were free in the sense that they were no longer in captivity. They were no longer in bondage. But just what I say, they were supposed to build a house of God, build a temple near there. But Arawosam said, Omu facing some challenges in Ubia Sanko, Nifia, no Osi on one fee. And then God, through Haggai and Zechariah, preached unto the people. And one more turning in Haggai chapter 1, verse 4, verse 7 to 9. Nina mentioned Cyrus and Persia for no mudi ewiase nyina so there was a kingdom and the ewiase nyina so the Medo-Persian kingdom. However, the people were not in bondage. There's a difference between being under a kingdom or a rulership, and there's a difference with the issue of say we are bonded, we are slave to that kingdom. As at that time they were free. Now, Joe, the woman here, freedom no, no was as a result, say, Onyankopon be kwan ama to come back home. Now, God's purpose, no, and it say, so mu be fear omotima be wo agenkwa. So at I say, now me no should be quick. Malachi chapter 1. Malachi as a book, no, gives us an idea. Say, omubaye no, omonya freedom to go about their things, you know. What is then happening? Malachi, actually, as I said, okay, no, enkrofo omabe deviant. Onyankopon somomo tutu na se. Malachi, actually, on say, bone omu ye nti Onyankopon so they are so twɛn aba omo so. They should return to God and he will return to them. Now, about chapter 3, verse 1, yenkinkai. Malachi chapter 3, verse 1, no? And also saying,
Behold, I send my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant in whom you delight.
Behold, per the proclamation of Malachi, no, it says that the temple has already been built. So I say, it at the time Malachi was speaking, the temple has been built. They have started sacrificing and all that. But they did not have a king in Israel. It was the priest to say Ezra, emuna edi omonim and omonsum, right? And Onyankopon bo share say, the Obia Albano, he's going to come, and I'm going to send my servant to come and prepare a way for the Lord.
But who can endure the day of his coming, and who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like launderer's soap.
So he is coming, right? Yanko chapter 4, near verse 5 and 6, no?
Verse 5 and 6. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he will turn the hearts of the fathers to children and the hearts of children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with a curse.
So when you, baby, what do now? Say, ukuta normal printed Bible. Now, what tiny viewer a blank. What am I say? Into Malachi can't say we in a year, and no. Assembly any hobby. So the point in this, Joe, the thing that Malachi talked about, say Eba Bisino, is an indication, say, sa and same way, sa niema way in a cosono. Nyankopon projection, or can't you say Eba Bebaso. But as at that time, no, why na or henny, pay what we read, no. Medo-Persian for no. Me boana.
We are singing also.
We are singing also. Eti Joe, I want you to turn to the book of Matthew. Neha Debi. Turn to the book of Matthew. In fact, book of Matthew, na yenre chapter. I would like Luke rather, but the same, you know, but Luke will help a lot. Luke chapter 1, no. It would Luke chapter 1. I just want you to just see something. And son Abia Yatwaso, I'll go detailed into the whole thing. Luke chapter 1, no. Verse 5.
There was in the days of a certain priest named Zacharias.
Yo, Sisu Bioma and I'm saying Olani Breke.
There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias of the division of Abijah. His wife was.
First, the question is, I want to say, also there was in the days of who? Zachariah.
There was in the days of Herod, king of Judea.
But as at the time of Malachi, closing the book, no, we didn't have
Israel.
a king.
Na Medo Persia for mum and anka or hinimpo or anka Yebeka say.
Exactly.
Okay, exactly. Very good. From now, that point on.
Can be me time about what can answer no busa question. Chapter 2, verse 1.
Chapter 2, verse 1 of Luke. And it came to pass in the days that a decree went from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered.
At the time when you close the Old Testament, you see me the Persia for the DVS in your answer me what?
Annie.
Where they came from Chronicles chapter 2 Chronicles chapter 36, you know. Cyrus the DVS in your answer. Now per Luke chapter 2, no, a decree came from who?
Augustus, Caesar.
Caesar Augustus and instructed the whole world to go to their places for them to be counted.
And then Judea now has a king.
Judea was king. Apart from Judea, no, yes, I will be a deviation also. His name is Augustus. And
okay. That's the question. Brother Jonathan, so Masembisa Edi Hone say, Brother Shadrach mentioned say, when you are turning from Malachi chapter 4, verse number 6, into Matthew chapter 1, verse number 1, in the printed Bibles, usually we see a page which is almost blank.
Yeah.
That blank page, is it really blank then? From the rule shaper, Brother Shadrach, the free war, oh no, Biakre ni Israel, so. And then, Uncle Bim Pobedi Israel, so, Anka Yabebo Hen Cyrus. But suddenly, we are calling a certain Herod, we are calling a certain Caesar. Within that blank space, is it really blank? If it's not blank, nay, a period saying how long and the year can once them within that blank page.
Yo, medasi. In fact, in your your Bible class, most people are attending Bible for so many years, you know. It's a bit tempting to believe that one here you might be thinking that Malachi Etron on the next week and maybe a Matthew show up. Because you just read it, you just flip the page, and most people not in fact, so be a whole Bible our kind, maybe chapter 1, and now say the next week and chapter 2 is here. And with those things, you know, not a handy page P. Say the Shadrach so say Neoma ICC. In fact, that period from the book of Malachi, a share Bible, you know, to the book of Matthew, you know, it's a long period with a lot of history. So the pante sa history na say me a full understanding of what is going, some of the things that happens in the Bible, and I'll give you examples. But a question I will say one the period, in other words, the length, the thing. Roughly, you know, it's around 400 years, a bit over 400 years. Now the entire Mekase is roughly a bit over 400 years in it. Young go back to Nehemiah. So Tisha that can come on dinner. Israel for na by Israel, I mean the southern part. I'm not talking about the Israel as in the northern kingdom. Northern kingdom, they are Syria for the Faunko. Northern part, southern part, or Judea for no. Nebuchadnezzar ever found so Edwon Konum. Nebuchadnezzar won Eddie Monum from then the Medes and the Persians and in Komomun Omudia Pimun, the Medes and Omono Persia for Kabum. And as far as Daniel chapter 5, only 2. The Babylonian Empire. So when books like Ezra, Esther, Nehemiah showed up, now the ODVS so at that time is the Medes and the Persians. They are two group of people, Medes and the Persians, or Mudivias. So Nehemiah chapter 2, my indication say, Nehemiah time our year not say all back to Jerusalem to go and build the walls of Jerusalem. So okay, Ezra the kind in Kofokoi, Zerubbabel the kind in Kofokoi. So the third group of or the third batch of people who went back to go and help construct the walls of Jerusalem was Nehemiah and Nkofo. By the time Ebana Junimu say was in the 20th year of Ohina Oteswa Hebrew for Hajwaros, and in the Greek name Xerxes. Oko onim kakra to chapter 13, verse number, and me pese be kan verse number 6 no. Nehemiah chapter 13, verse number 6 no.
Chapter 13, verse number 6. But during all this, I was not in Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, I had returned to the king. Then, after certain days, I obtained leave from the king.
Okay, so this time, the one who was ruling Babylon area was this guy, Artaxerxes. No, was the king of Babylon, Artaxerxes. And Nehemiah, someone or change son say, time or call ya or build the war near that, and he came back to the palace of this king, which is in Shushan, Obabak. But Obabak, it was in the 32nd year of this king.
Yeah.
From this king, Artaxerxes the first, to history, the first time Darius the third, one of the midis Darius the third, any Alexander the Great, Asia fight was roughly around 334 BC, 334 BC. That is 334 before Jesus Christ was born. 334 BC. From that time to Nehemiah 13, verse number 6, it's roughly like 99 or 100 years. Into Kabumwa, it's roughly like 433, 400 there of years span. That is why you say from Malachi, close to the book, from that Malachi to the time Matthew and someone can Matthew stretchy, but the time Matthew in someone more can woman, the period that Matthew can want someone from that Malachi to that time is roughly like 400 years, and we normally call it silent years because of you need some Bible no more can want some. That is why they call it silent years, but it's not silent because there were a lot of things happening there, but there were no prophets like Malachi more to say those things doing their work. And that is why. So there are a lot of things it's embedded in that history.
Okay, that's very great. Now, my next set of questions no be what actually happened within this period. Brother Shadrach, Emma ni besi say na Israel ewo freedom as at that time. Empo senko bi di omuso a na ne nka ebebo Cyrus edin waha. But suddenly, when we transition into the New Testament, there came a certain Herod. There is a big Caesar. Within this time, na Israel also on Fahudi, I think no, because from just what happened in the New Testament, yeah, Bible ahimfubinum edin woho. And then minim just a momo bem. And see, me person mo actually be taking this. Ebiana eye ekuo ba ko penny be Israel so fine. Ebiana bro so. Israel ko share omunyo mu fa hodi within this period and eye then ye call ya kusi Herod and Caesar eso.
Okay. My main started now Ebia Joe. I'm not going to go detailed into way because I'll come back to the details of some of the things. But I want to give you a brief way.
And adiba kwa me person mo behye so abra mu yi sa asemi anu ama me say our attention is on the Bible. We are trying to establish the inspiration, authenticity of the Bible. But yeah, discuss the authorship of the books of the Old Testament now, yeah, transition into the books of the New Testament now. Mijidi said there are certain things without key lessons in the intertestamental period, it becomes really difficult for us to just grab it in the New Testament. In the course of your discussion, no, if there are any relevant points which will aid us to understanding the New Testament, I'll be glad to say it comes along with the answers you give.
Well, first of all, I mean, can we say, okay, we say Cyrus, and in any case, will be the so. Now, when we say Cyrus, you can't, it's say, Obagana ha, you can't utumfo.
Utumfo ben.
What I say?
Okay.
You can't utumfo. It is more like, say, Asante for a him for a hodo. It is Cyrus, you know, it's just one king. Ojama kingdom, various kings are more baby D. Your friend is saying, Median and Persian kingdom. No,
Persian.
What I say, it you know, Cyrus, you know, was more like the prominent king among them, but there are various kings. Or more ebaya, ibinana or Nehemiah umuno, ibinana Esther so eshase. And all those kings on by. Now let's begin, Joe, by looking at a passage be in Galatians chapter 4. Galatians chapter 4, the verse 4. No? Bible say in what?
But when the fullness of the time had come,
but
God
when
sent
the fullness of time, at the moment you become fullness of time, no, and then about it. Either say we share time will be a shadow or say or person will be.
Okay.
Now that's or can't say time we soon obey time date in the soon or yeah. Right? Or the fullness of time could also be say a brave dear na a be a share so yeah no and or yeah way. Now in the fullness of time we are Paul Galatians and they say at that time no God sent forth his son born of a woman born under the law. It then one said an walker. Then all can you say in the book of Daniel the basic intertestamental period no Daniel can answer. Is it not surprising? Daniel gave us the basis of all the things that will be happening. In fact, the book of Daniel here, you get to see, say, at the intertestamental period, no, Daniel talked about it. And you know, Ezekiel also can answer. But I'm saying bibi kakra bi or Daniel part, no, so that we get to transition to others to understand. Daniel chapter 2, in verse 37 no, through to 43, no, quickly. Now you
verse
Daniel.
number 37, Daniel chapter 2.
Kai said, my background, Kai said, Daniel, at the time, Yabe Babylon for said, na Jonathan Kana, Abe for the southern kingdom Jew for no, Edo ko Babylon and Kwasumu. Sankro for no, ena Persian King Cyrus, Ebe seti omu free no. But what I say, but baby, a king can, at the time, where you seti omu free. Now, ya before mu konkwa sumuno. Ena Nebuchadnezzar son die. Ye nyina ya te sa story no a. But Daniel chere die na se no. Ena Daniel can answer me. Verse 37.
You, O king, are a king of kings. For the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of heaven, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold.
But Daniel, I said, Nebuchadnezzar, they has a head which is gold. What must and also say head of gold, you know. Nebuchadnezzar, you are the first kingdom Onyame established here. So you are the head of gold. What was I also saying?
But after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours. Then
Good.
another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule
Uh-huh.
over all the earth.
Joe, Utie Chronicles are Daniel de Maya. The first kingdom, no, the one was specified what
Yeah.
and also a Nebuchadnezzar kingdom. And a second one will say it will come after Nebuchadnezzar there. And also there will be a third one, right? And also a fourth one,
yeah, and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything. And like iron that crushes that kingdom, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others.
80. Daniel said there's going to be 4 kingdoms. Verse 44 and 45. I'm not saying.
Verse 44, and in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed.
In the days of the last kingdom, no, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom. That kingdom, nobody can destroy it. 80 per the evaluation of what Daniel is saying here. We have the first kingdom to be what? Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, right?
Yes.
And not than Kenya, there's going to be another one, which is the second kingdom. There will be a third one, which is a third from Nebuchadnezzar. There will be a fourth one, no, say a very strong kingdom. And then there's a fifth one, but the fifth one is the kingdom of God. But what must say? Now, so we have a basis we are saying. Remember Jonathan, but sweeping through the book of Daniel, no, and I hope say Jonathan will give the details. Sweeping through the book of Daniel, no, who be do Daniel chapter 5. When him say Daniel chapter 5, you two Nebuchadnezzar kingdom no guye. 80 and come share we are Daniel Ocean, a first one who be mu Daniel chapter 5. Opa into mechanic can kitwe be just a line. Daniel chapter 5. Daniel chapter 5, no, ekasa de afa ayi Belshazzar ono akosesa enema na ono no Onyankopon ekruwa no ena o se ehun se ensa bi atro edan ho in verse 24 ensa no tro down no okofa Daniel se Daniel mechirechire ni mu na Daniel ba be chirechire ni mu no ena Daniel e kan kire ne se nana wahini no wachem e de ama media any Persia for. So your wahini no has come to an end. Verse 30 and 31. I didn't see it.
Verse 30, Daniel chapter 5. That very night, Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain, and Darius.
18. That very night, no, Babylonian Kina, your friend, Belshazzar, no, Bible say he was killed, and I want to take you over.
And Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
One can say Cyrus. So Cyrus was not the first king, because Cyrus ne di any mere conquer. By a conquer, you know, he did not become the king. And Oma Darius ebeye king. No to also conquer the other cities. Or they say 80. They were doing that swap, no. Media for this sukakra na Owua na Persia for so abediso. Persia for so kwa na media for Bantina. At the time of your friend is saying Nehemiah, no, Darius the third. This one is Darius the first. Joe, it is a history when you know Daniel Mayeno. Said the second kingdom has been established. In fact, Daniel chapter 8, Obeka say the third kingdom, Alexander the Great, and also Ebebaso, the Greece Empire, and also Bebaso. Daniel chapter 11. No, I can't just say the Greece Empire, no, Emubechiche, Ebegu, Egua, then the fourth kingdom will come. Well, I'm not detailed on the fourth, no match, but on my end, the EBCC, and it's an emanina. It's, you know, my bonnet top one, they make sure you say, intertestamental period in Niama, Daniel can once say, me, no. Details of it, you know, even though Daniel has already prophesied, say EBC, 80, as much as we think, say, to say Jonathan can say, a silent period, no, and yes, silence that it's as God has already specified some of the things that will be happening during that time. Now, you bet me, Abia, Mema, Joe Abemuansa, now, Ansana, maybe I'm Bemu Mama. Other things be is see, yeah, Abia, say Jonathan and can once more. May they ever count.
Okay, so all that you are saying is although the happening, that's the fulfillment of the prophecy, is silent in the Bible, the prophecy itself wasn't silent. In other words, no, apart from the Bible now, I'm trying no, other historical evidence is a confirmation of the prophecy that is written here in the Old Testament for us. Okay, may I say. So, Rajo, Brother Shadrach actually, Yajunesi, Ahinie Binomuso, pointing us to the fact that they are actually a reality of what happened within this intertestamental period.
Yeah.
Can you give us more detail about?
Okay. So yeah. So now Bashadake can so Daniel no goes telling us some of the things that will happen. Interestingly, no, Daniel no Maetia says so many things are happening here. Daniel Maya details some of the things that will happen. Now, initially we thought that historians may have we have seen that there is something wrong with the one Daniel can, but it couldn't happen. You hint you on some of these things. But Daniel comes out to confirm as someone now some of these things is to confirm the authenticity of the Bible. The Bible comes out you see, now can be more Daniel, but maybe say can be credible Daniel. Now, yeah, my train what you maybe see it. The book of Daniel, chapter 8. This chapter 8, you know, Daniel, and Mami quick to say this. The book of Daniel is not chronological.
Yeah.
Because chapter 5 and you Belshazzar, you kun chapter 5. But chapter 8, or say in the third year, chapter 8, verse number was in the third year of the reign of Belshazzar, a vision of appeared to even unto me, Daniel. So the book of Daniel is not arranged in chronological order, and that you might be getting your head around a lot of things. But in that chapter 8, you know, verse number 8.
Verse number 8, Daniel chapter 8. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the male goat grew very great.
So in fact, verse number 6, Obeka say a ramp, APA, ramp no 2, abemenu. And the ramp Obeka here, but also ramp ni PA or no, then a male goat, a he goat, a punching Bemabia on Suchia a bang back. Sorry,
Therefore, the male goat grew very great. Mm-hmm. But when he became strong, the large horn was broken, and in place of it, 4 notable ones came up toward the 4 winds of heaven.
Good. So first, you see, Eddie can say ram and a goat and a goat in a baby back on a buoy 4 and a bishim. In the above 4 na Orchard Daniel vision, we know, even gave Daniel explanation. O man, Daniel says, "Sa goat in your man, abua pepe." He's talking about kingdoms. And in your man ABC, verse number 20, no.
Verse 20, Daniel chapter 8. The ram which you saw having the 2 horns, they are kings of Media and Persia.
So the ram is the Medes and the Persians. Sahim from you know mujina. Usia the original chapter 8 nearby, you realize that he go to no eshiri ebe pim ram no ekunu. So he was destroyed by them. The he go destroy the ram ekunu. Or destroy ni na ne anchena ne abebe ni buye a for ni pie. But what kakra. Verse
And
21.
the male goat is the kingdom of Greece.
Uh-huh.
The large horn that's between its eyes is the first king.
Mm-hmm.
As for the broken horn and the four that stood up in its place, 4 kingdoms shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power.
So,
and
yes, ya kakraba, you see Medes and the Persians. The two omugu were the Grecian Empire, headed by Alexander the Great. That is the he goat our kind of one was seen. Alexander the Great. Now what they are no war, and I make sure you know in the battle 334 BC. Alexander the Great and then Darius the third Asia. In fact, Darius or Darius the third to the extent say he has to run back to his home. Emma, the predecessor, the obedi na the nekunu, Berus, ekunu manufrio. Inti the Alexander the Great, the final conquest was with Berus. He destroyed Berus and destroyed the Medes and the Persian kingdom. But Daniel Mieti as I say, even Alexander the Great, he goes now take it over. No, the whole new the implication is say Alexander the Great Nankasan Uwi. He died. When he died, his Abra Obewu, he didn't name his successor. Did he? I him say Ahini Jinaswa Kesia. They have to name a successor. The Obedima. In fact, we remember Abra David Ibewu. I mean, people started trying to claim ownership of Ahini. The same thing. Alexander the Great Ibewu. Those people started claiming ownership. So Alexander says, well, Monko, the Obewini on fa. So he threw it up to his generals, his military generals, and they started making war against themselves. For about 20 good years, these military generals ne fight 4 and very prominent. 4. Senior Daniel and Commission Tian Musa say 4 became prominent. 1 was Cassander. Cassander was one of the military generals, very prominent, and he ruled the area of Greece. The second one was Lysimachus. He ruled the area of Macedon or Thrace. The third one was Seleucus. He ruled the area of Syria and Babylon. And the fourth one was Ptolemies, the Egyptian era. In this military generals, we divided Alexander the Great, the empire, that the Grecian empire, he divided it, and they started ruling from baby ubia dinner that dear kakasa. In fact, Bible making it clear, say 2 Seleucus and Ptolemies, they had different Bible no pay attention to. One was that Ptolemies was favorable to God's people. Ptolemies on no side the Old Testament Hebrew for Bible translated called Greek kasa. The Egyptians, Alexandria, 70 scholars are translated Bible from the Hebrew language to the Greek language. IFN the Septuagint. It was done within the area. The baby ana Ptolemies Egypt, Alexandria. How and a translated Bible no Hebrew kasa about Greek kasa. If that Bible was the Bible, Jesus normally and in the they came to meet that Bible translation. Seleucus no there, not time. For very, very or time. And to get a feel of what was happening during his time. This, I mean, I have my Bible anyway. This my Bible. I'm reading it. But this is a Catholic version, Catholic Bible. In the Catholic Bible, there is a book called Maccabees. So I should forward to that. I mean, there's a book called Maccabees. It's not a Bible, it's not scripture, but it gives us history of what was happening at that time. And my clear understanding of what was happening, what was going on in the first and second Maccabees. The main kind, Abia Maccabees etrofa, this king, we first Maccabees chapter 1, verse number 44. But my main kind was saying, the king sent messengers with letters to Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah, ordering them to follow custom foreign to their land. Where Seleucus one of their kings, Seleucus no, omo ahemfo no, baako a ofiri mu a yefe no Antiochus Epiphanes. Ono ho asem no ho asem. Antiochus Epiphanes ono ho asem. And he sent letters say, well, Judah for no enye amamre ni amane a omo ankasa etia omo. Verse 45 will say to prohibit Holocaust, sacrifice and liberations in their sanctuary, to profane the Sabbath and the feast days. The Jew for no omo kra ho meda konkron no. Sa kwa ne say no, they should profane Sabbath and feast days. Verse 46 to desecrate their sanctuary and sacred ministry, to build pagan altars and temples and shrines, to sacrifice swine and unclean animals. That was forbidden by Leviticus. They should offer swine and unclean animals, to leave their sons uncircumcised, and to let them to be defiled of every kind of impunity and abomination, so that they might forget the law and change their observance. Whoever refused to act according to the command of the king should be put to death. In fact, Jew for Nankasa Frey Antiochus Epiphanes, the madman.
The madman.
The madman. If you don't look after the mad dog, but he called himself even Antiochus, but I say Epiphany, then like manifest. When you know who the enlightened one will be on who or shrine like that. And that was what was going on in Sa Uran era. He troubled Nyankopon for Jews, for so much time there. Who seen the book of Maccabees there, you realize that a lot of things. One of the sad history said there was one Jewish priest called Mattathias in chapter 2, now 5. He commanded na ohenioma ekoso Jerusalem ne Judea ne akwainam nkru sa Antiochus ne nam nkru ne letters e kwa around say omonye fa swine ne nioma momu ntwa omatwete na dade a na abofo no, to the extent say edrube bi a onu kro mu a ote ho na osom modern na ohyewa na osom ne nyame kokwa mu ano ana nkofo omode krata ne ba ne bi ba ne nchen say masa ohene say ni enye. And he read the letter that they are supposed to offer sacrifice, swine and profane sacrifices to their gods or temple near the undefiled temple. And Okasa no, ana akwa ne si matata se menye. Okasa wonye no. Maccabees first Maccabees chapter 2 verse number 23 say Jew ni bia no gina nchen diblika kiki say okobo afore no. And what happened was that Mattathias etwen se kan ekun no. When Kun and Okun or Hene messenger no Sadaban Okun, and that started the Maccabean revolt.
But Joe, Mamma DB Shepherd na your time no yasun. Joe,
your time no yasun.
Utie and some now all canoa is an interesting, but Yankee can never be seen na in the Panthease. First of all, on say Wamao, how Alexander the Great kingdom no break here by. Now when you go to Daniel chapter 7, time all a list of the 4 kingdoms, or my key point be said, Daniel can say be said the second the third kingdom, a leopard, right? And also leopard a war atabamienu sidechi. Now think about it. Leopard nankasa aboa o ye swift na da utumri kapa.
Na yasa mana tabai.
And oko history more. Alexander the Great conquered the whole world in less than 13 years. In fact, me say 6 years. But according to say or starting journey no ni bibia no, it took him about 13 years to conquer the whole world. That's how swift one person utimi ayoe. Now, Yankee can many say ni number 1. Alexander the Great, wo crawl down a chest will be no. The kingdom's name mu achiche no. Eba saying I'm just trying to bring in fill in the blank akrebi wall. Eba saying that Jew for best suffer from Seleucus name Epiphany the Antiochus Epiphany. They been suffer from that. said the Okano, Ptolemies no ewo down her Egypt, right? And Cassandra ewo Macedonia, Europe side. And ewo Antigones so everyone say Asia Minor ho. And Seleucus are ni descendant into papa na your friend general no Seleucus no. Seleucus no onu ni descendant and ye benya Antiochus for no. Into Antiochus the first, the second, in fact Antiochus the third, neba any Antiochus Epiphania or the Antiochus the fourth no. ATDC and say no money, say 2 kingdoms are no more compano. Ptolemies no general no for Egypt no. Any generals no for Syria. You can Syria. You can in between Egypt. Any Egypt ni your friend saying Esro media for no Persia for no. Or move into man say Israel for no be share Egypt any Syria for no entem. It is a Antiochus for no equani generals or more Egypt na kwa. Mapwa. The only way on me fako and it's on my fa Israel for no assassin. And Egypt for no so any Syria for no kwa. Almost about the fa Israel for assassin. So that small piece of land here, Palestinian land in Gaza and Papyrus became a war zone. Because we mo ba mo nam ho, we mo so ba mo nam ho. Maybe the time they ask, so we may not be able to explain that, but we will get to explain why Papa Natural letter say omunkum ye preko ewo omo altar no so. They won't know because there was a disagreement be I know expected say Jew for no support no man support no. And no conquer part of Egypt Alban or the Abufu, and then any brother says uncle for Wimso. So God's people suffered simply because they were in the middle of 2 giants. And the Emperor forces say, as soon as no kwa, one suffer. That's exactly what the people of Israel went through. It may be with time, no, maybe next week, say, Obama acquire. You have a child, and Toquano, any dear buyer, Mammy can we, dear buyer Bama Roma for to me, ebedi, if we are so. Because I'm Toqua way no between them, no, and the Roma for no, ebe remua, almost to take advantage, the we are seeing also. Emma, the Yapon,
Yadasi, Yadamasi, Ewa Mramo, Adi Amayene. Yes, you are be brain. Free Daniel Nkomshe, our Niema Ebisi home, although silent with other historical references, no, we see the fulfillment of some of these prophecies. And the Medo-Persians, their reign over Israel, and Yuba Eso Ebehu Greek for so Ebeji Israel na Udiso. Nyankopon Edomia na watching Ebisim no. You better addition free Falcon you drew ye na yada was one mra ye na you see at the end. But modern say also overshare video no I'm off for any biashe. Nyakopon shrine the cosi say you be share bill. Edamunina massive ever memory.